Very excited to introduce our next speaker on the 40 Over 40 Summit, Tamara Adams. Let me tell you a little bit about her. As a clinical pharmacist and BHRT specialist, Tamara Adams spent years mastering hormone science, but her own midlife revival defined her mission. Approaching 50, Tamara transformed her perimenopause journey into a launch pad for revival hormone health. She empowers women to view this stage not as a decline, but as a stronger, more fulfilling second act. Her message: you can have it all, just not all at once, and your best half is just beginning. Welcome, Tamara.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share with you guys today. I wanted to start by taking you all back to 2020. I was on my back porch homeschooling my son, and I looked into his eyes and there were tears. He was scared of me because I had lost it yet again. Um, I thought to myself, who am I? Who is this woman? Why am I behaving this way? And then soon after, I noticed the wake ups, the middle of the night. Look at the clock, 2:30, tick, 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 3:30, tick, 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 4:30. It took me a while because it was 2020 to realize what was going on was not the year. It was not what was going on in the world. It was my hormones. The last straw was a frozen shoulder. I could not even reach into the back seat of my car to pick up a box of tissues, and with the frozen shoulder, it was indicative of where I was in my life. I was frozen. I had lost control of myself and I had lost control of my future. So, in that time, I had to find out what was going on. And once I found out what was going on was really perimenopause and hormone shifts, I had to find appropriate care. That was much harder than I expected it to be. So I found someone online because my PCP and my OBGYN totally dismissed me. They were like, your labs are normal. You're a healthy weight. You are fantastic. We can't help you. This is a phase. But I kept pushing. So I found someone online who helped me with estrogen and progesterone. I felt 80% better. Man, that was a relief because 80% better is definitely better than where I was. But I still wasn't there. I have always been much more holistic focused. Having worked in the hospital for years and years and years, I've seen what over medication does to people. I've seen what delaying health does to people. And I knew that there was more that I needed to find out about my own health, and finally found someone who would address more for me. For me, that was thyroid and testosterone, and that was the magic ticket to losing the 40 extra pounds that I had been carrying around, even by doing the right things before. That was what the missing piece was for me. So basically, I found myself in this spot, had to advocate way harder than I needed to in order to find my own care. And as I educated myself through that process, I realized I have a PharmD behind my name, but I did not have the answers for my own body. So I went looking for a holistic approach, and all I found was patches and pills. So I continued to push, and I found first the energy through the training, or first the energy and enthusiasm from finding balance again. Then I sought out the appropriate training and was able to launch something brand new as I approached 50. So my husband turned 50 yesterday. I've got a few more months. So we've been teasing him quite a bit that he's there and I'm not, but I'm sure I'll catch up at some point. So a lot of things in our household are, I tease my children that we are like a living musical. So I might throw in a few references, a few 80s, 90s references, because I'm sure most of you are, give or take, 10 years close to my age, right? Everyone's over 40 or maybe should be. But I bet you remember, I'm about to lose my mind up in here, up in here. That was Mary J. Blige. I'm sure you guys remember that. But we have all had those moments. So, what we need to do is figure out how to move forward from those moments and how to make the most of this midlife transition. So, because I really love to educate, I want to take a little time and kind of fill you guys in on the hormonal symphony. Like what is happening in your body when things are going well, so that you can leave with just a little bit of wisdom, a little more information about what is happening with you. So your body isn't broken, it might be out of tune. So the orchestra of hormones are a bunch of hormones. We've got cortisol, we've got estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, insulin, and we have to have them all work together. So if we think about a symphony, you've got cortisol, he's the conductor. So even though you have every seat in the symphony full of highly trained musicians with super expensive instruments, they've all got their music in front of them. If that cortisol conductor drops its wand and is not functioning appropriately, guess what happens? The symphony is not as beautiful, even though we have all the right things in place. Cortisol is the master hormone. So when cortisol goes out of whack, all of our other hormones go out of whack too. So the next one I want to talk about a bit is estrogen. Estrogen is your protector. So it protects your heart and your brain and your bones. And we are getting more and more data to show what estrogen does for our bodies in the long run is beneficial. So there's one thing to use hormones to control your symptoms as you're approaching menopause or in your first few years of menopause. Many people struggle with hot flashes, night sweats. Some people don't. But if you're one of those people who does not struggle with some of those outward signs of estrogen deficiency, but your mom has osteoporosis or had a hip fracture, you need to consider, is estrogen possibly beneficial for me? Because it does improve bone density and helps prevent that. Same with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it decreases heart risk by almost 30%. So these are important things to know about estrogen. Estrogen is not just your protector, it also keeps things flexible and resilient and moist. So think about your eyes, your skin, your mouth, your ears. If your ears are itchy, that could be low estrogen. Think about your vaginal area. If you are dry in these areas, then estrogen decline or deficiency may be a piece of that puzzle. So it doesn't just keep things moist, but it also keeps things resilient and stretchy. So think about your skin. If you don't want to get wrinkles, estrogen's helpful. And it also helps keep tissues the way they are meant to be. So it builds collagen. That works on our face, it works in our vaginal region. But think about inside of your body. So, inside of your body, your cardiovascular system is made up of blood vessels, miles and miles of blood vessels. Estrogen helps keep those blood vessels flexible and from getting too stiff. So, I like to think of a water hose that you left outside all summer, coiled up behind the house, and you forgot about it. The next spring, you go out to use that water hose, and what has happened to it? Yes, it is not flexible. It is dry rotted and it cannot move. If you move it, it will break. So without estrogen, that's what happens to our vessels. They become more stiff. Then we have an increase in blood pressure, perhaps, or an increase in resting heart rate. We can also have an increase in cholesterol when our estrogen drops because cholesterol is the master hormone. Well, not the master hormone, it is the building block, the Lego that helps us build all of our steroid hormones. So our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, even cortisol, when those are low, cholesterol squeaks up because our body makes it in order to make the downstream product, the estrogen. So enough about estrogen. I think we've talked about that. Let's talk about progesterone because when we have estrogen, we also need progesterone. When you are cycling or if you're cycling, the first half of your cycle is primarily an estrogen peak. And then the second half of the cycle is primarily a progesterone peak. And so progesterone drops often years before menopause as your ovulations become less effective or less often. We don't have a corpus luteum that can create or produce the progesterone that's needed. So when that drops, you begin feeling irritable, anxious. You might have trouble sleeping. Does this sound familiar? It does to me. And progesterone is like nature's built-in anti-anxiety hormone. Without enough, it is harder to sleep soundly at night. It also helps your thyroid work better and it protects areas of your body where estrogen causes proliferation or growth. So, estrogen may cause your uterine lining to grow, and progesterone keeps that in check. It may cause your breasts to get larger and more tender. Progesterone keeps that in check. It even works as a natural diuretic. So, if estrogen causes you to hold on to fluid, progesterone helps with bloating and water retention. So, those are the two hormones you think of when you think of female hormones, but I would like to introduce you to one other female hormone, testosterone. Say what? Yes, testosterone. I know we think of testosterone as a male hormone, but testosterone is very important for women. You make more testosterone in your lifetime than you do estrogen. So even though we have testosterone, we have about 1/10 of what a man has in their bodies. So think about what testosterone does for men. It makes them strong and muscular. Their skin might be a little firmer than ours. It also causes them to have energy, be competitive, want to go out and slay the beast. Well, that might not be our feminine nature. However, we do have a component of that to our personalities. So, on a smaller scale, if you have been if you are depressed for the first time ever, if you are sitting on the couch scrolling Instagram and the dryer buzzer goes off and you just cannot bring yourself to lift yourself off of the couch, spend 5 minutes folding the clothes and putting them away, even though it really is not that much effort, if you just can't bring yourself to do that, your testosterone might be low. The other thing that I often see in women is they were super active when they were younger. They were very involved. They were very vibrant. They were very go-getter. And then, they enjoyed the dance class or they enjoyed girls' night out regularly. And then you get to the point where you get what's done that needs to be done, but then you just have no energy or enthusiasm left for anything else beyond what is necessary. That girls' night sounds just too hard. The dance class, oh my gosh, where would I find the energy? That could be low testosterone. You also probably know that testosterone is important for libido and sexual function, and it actually is important for every step along the process. So, from having the idea pop into your head to arousal, lubrication, orgasm, they all rely on testosterone. So when testosterone is low, many women just feel flat, unmotivated, or blah. And I just want to remind you at this point that the goal of hormone therapy is not to give you more hormones than you need, but to balance yourself so you can feel like yourself again. So we talked a bit about cortisol being the conductor of the symphony. If cortisol is out of whack, it is our main stress hormone. So you may feel overly stressed or you may have no energy at all because our body can only sustain elevated cortisol for a short time. We are not built to live in the high stress environment that our world often is. So it is very, very important that we find ways to center ourselves, that we find ways to shift from that flight or fight response into the rest and digest response. So I'd like for you to think about a zebra. So let me tell you what zebras do in Africa. Zebras, if they begin to be chased by a lion, they run. That is their fight or flight, their sympathetic nervous system. The moment that they find themselves in a new prairie behind something where they feel safe, they do this giant head to toe shake, like thunder, thunderous shake. And then they bend over and they start eating grass. So in that case, zebras have figured out how to transition from fight or flight into rest and digest. But as humans, we have lost whatever mechanism we had to shift. So it is very important that you work with someone or some resources to learn how to shift into that parasympathetic or rest and digest mode. There's box breathing, there's meditation. I prefer like an exhale hum where you put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. You breathe in deeply. You hold it for 3 or 4 seconds, and then as you breathe out slowly, you That does amazing things to take us into that parasympathetic. There have been a lot of speakers that have been talking about this as well. So reach out and find one of them to help you if you need help with that. So I'd also like to mention thyroid. Thyroid is your metabolism regulator. So let's go back to that symphony. Thyroid would be the drum line. So I play piano in our praise band at church, and occasionally it's a very small praise band. If our drummer is not there, we do not have the same energy. We do not start at the right beat. We sound okay, but we just don't have that extra. And thyroid brings the extra. It is responsible for your metabolism. And if you have unexplained weight gain or difficulty losing weight, if you're feeling cold all the time, struggling with constipation, have hair thinning, dry skin, brain fog, low libido, that could be thyroid. So, the other thing that I think is so important in midlife is we do struggle to lose weight. Our hormones shift, our metabolism shifts, and a big piece of that is often insulin resistance. So, to go back to the musical reference, let's talk like we are going to go out on the town. So, take yourself back to college, your mid 20s. You are going to go to that club that had a bouncer. Okay, it's been years since I've done that. So if I'm incorrect in my assessment, forgive me. My kids are in college, not me. So I want you to imagine that hottest club. It was 1995. The lights are low, the bass is heavy, and inside that club, your cells where the party or the energy happens. To keep the party going, we need guests. Those guests are glucose. You can't just walk into the club. You got to be on the list. And guess who's standing at the door? The bouncer. His name is insulin. In our 20s, that bouncer was elite. He was sharp, he was fast, and every time a guest showed up, he checked that ID, opened the door, and shoved the glucose in. And the party stayed hyped. There were plenty of guests inside the party, plenty of glucose inside the cell. That is a healthy metabolism. But then the 90s ended and the 2020s hit. Between the stress of perimenopause, that drop in estrogen, and the not all at once approach we didn't take, our bouncer got burnt out. Our insulin was done. He's leaning against the wall, scrolling on his phone, and ignoring the door. Those guests, all that glucose, are still showing up in the bloodstream, but the door is locked. They cannot get in the cell. So they start backing up in the sidewalk. And that's your bloodstream. It gets crowded. And what happens when you have too many people on a crowded sidewalk? A riot ensues. So that riot is systemic inflammation in your bloodstream driven by your blood sugar. So here's the kicker. Wow, there's a riot on the sidewalk. Guess what is empty? The club, your cell. So there is no glucose in the cell. Where does your energy come from? Inside the cell. So that DJ is spinning to no one. That's why you feel exhausted, even though you just ate. The energy is on the sidewalk, causing inflammation throughout your body, but it is not in the club. So that hopefully gives you a picture of what is going on in your body from a hormonal perspective. Now, I want to give you a little perspective before we wrap up. Um, as a pharmacist, I see people using band-aids to try to solve these solutions, trying to look at the sun first thing every morning, grounding their feet, drinking the cortisol drink that everybody else is doing. They are also taking this supplement that's supposed to help with their estrogen clearance, but you don't know what's going on inside of your body until you look and take a test. So there are important reasons to check not just your hormones, but your thyroid and your insulin to be sure that that riot is not out of control and that we can gain control. So the other things that I'd like to leave you with is that you are halfway through life-ish, right? I'm not telling you when you're going to die. However, I'm turning 50 in a few months. I would love to live to 100, and I would love to live that extra 50 years with all the vigor and energy and health that I can. And right now is my moment. So my children are almost out of the house. Hopefully yours are getting there or almost there. There is more time. There's more money to focus on me. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Prioritize your own health so that you can focus on you. And there are several things I'd like for you to consider starting with. It is important to pay attention to toxins, not just what you put on or in your body, but we want to make sure your liver functions well enough to clear the things that your body makes and that your GI tract is moving things out regularly. We won't go into details there, but I'll let you fill in the gaps. Secondly, you need to balance your hormones. We've talked enough about that, I think. Thirdly, you must nourish your body using food as medicine. The natural approach to begin with is always best. You have to lay a good foundation of nutrition. And then lastly, all of those lifestyle habits like stress reduction, exercise, good sleep, those are all so important to have a foundation for good health as you moved into the second half of your life. So I encourage you to reclaim your health so that you can live out your God-given mission. God might be calling you to something different than he has before. There may be something new on the horizon for you. So look after yourself so that you can use that as a launching pad. Now remember, you can do it all, but you cannot do it all at once. So we talked about a lot of things today. So I'm going to encourage you to choose one place to start. And honestly, if it was me, I would start with those foundations: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and eliminating toxins. Once you've addressed those, then talk to a provider about helping you with your hormones. And don't stop when they tell you it's a phase. Don't stop looking for more help when they tell you that your labs look normal. Find a provider who can look for optimal levels and can really walk with you through this journey. If you're in North Carolina, I can help you with that. But because I am a provider who can prescribe, I'm not allowed to work outside of North Carolina. But I would love to serve as a resource for those of you guys who are interested and looking for help. So I'd like to tell you about a couple of things that I have shared with Sherry that she can share with you. So, in the theme of the 90s and music, let's think about Tupac. Keep your head up. um, also, think about your second half of life not as a sunset, as many do, but think of it as a remix. Think about what you want out of the second half of life. Think about how you are gifted. Think about what you have, what gifts you have to serve others. Where is your call? And so the second half of life is not a time to retire or to sunset. It is a time to revive. So the first gift that I have for you is I want to help you find your starting point. So the Wellness Compass quiz is a quiz that you can find at the link that Sherry will share. It helps you identify if your symptoms are coming from hormones, from nutrition, from inflammation, or from gut health. In my practice, I address all of these, but that might give you a good place to start when you go see your provider and say, I'm struggling and I think this is why. If you are a VIP, and I encourage you to upgrade if you haven't, I'd like to share with you the Revival Lab Guide. It's the cheat sheet that I wish I had in the 2020s. It is all the labs that I check on folks in my practice so that you can have a full and complete look at what is going on inside of your system. It's the exact labs to ask for and what they mean for your heart and your health. So I'm going to wrap up with I'm every woman, it's all in me. Okay, singing is not my gift. All right, hormones and cardiometabolic health is my gift. So I invite you to take care of yourself.
I love it. I love the singing at the end. Bring it. Oh my gosh, what a great presentation. So much information there for us. And I love your four tips at the end: toxins, balance hormones, nourish body, and stress reduction, exercise, good sleep, all of that. Um, if you guys have any questions or quick thoughts that you want to ask Tamara, please put those in the chat now. I just had a question for you in terms of, I know that what you shared is so much more than hormone replacement, but when thinking about that, like, so for someone like myself who's like, well into menopause and all of that, can you do that at any age, any time, like, and see the benefits?
That's a fantastic question. So, we do know that the benefits are there no matter when you start. There are
Mm,
additional risks depending on how far out you are from menopause. So, if your last period, whether it was natural, hysterectomy, or otherwise, without any hormone replacement therapy since then, was at least 10 years ago, then there is a small increased risk of blood clots or cardiovascular risk for just the first year that you are on hormone replacement therapy. And then your risk drops to that of your peers who were on hormone replacement therapy, perhaps for that entire time. So, providers typically, not all providers, some more open-minded providers will evaluate your individual cardiovascular risk, looking at lipid panels, ApoB, um, possibly a coronary artery calcium score, just to evaluate, are you already atherosclerotic? Is there already some cardiovascular disease brewing that we don't know about? Because those are the people who are most at risk when we add estrogen on top of that. I will say
mhm.
there is no increased risk of adding progesterone or testosterone at any age. And they can be very beneficial later in life as well. As a matter of
Awesome.
fact, my mom, who's in her 70s, as I was studying and doing this for myself, she was like, "Could that help me?" And I said, "Absolutely, it could, but I will not be your provider because legally I can't be." And
Yeah.
she did, her provider felt more comfortable with progesterone and testosterone, and she started there, and it helped a lot of her symptoms that she did not even realize were hormonal. So that was
Ah. Right. And I bet that's the thing, right? So many that we don't even realize and we just kind of come to, I know I am bad for that. Like just kind of whatever, it's just part
yeah,
of life and
yeah.
but if you don't need to, and I know for me, I would love to feel, more of that vibrancy
Mhm.
that I used to. And I will say, as someone who has recently really changed my diet and just that how much that alone can impact, it's incredible. Like
It really
garbage,
can. It
garbage.
really can. And honestly, that's really why I was looking for a holistic approach because you can't address hormones without addressing all of those underlying lifestyle factors, the diet, the stress management, the movement piece. Otherwise, the hormone replacement therapy becomes a band-aid
A crutch.
instead
Yeah.
of something that goes on top of layers of good health. So that's
Love that
to
you
me, a
said
very
that.
important approach. And that's not always the approach that's taken.
Yeah, I love that you are leaving us with that comment because I think that's really important. Thanks you for your amazing gifts. I can't wait to take this quiz and even the guide to your midlife vitality VIP gift that you shared. Both of those, please take advantage of that. Those in the chat there. Of course, if you upgrade to VIP, it's just $47 Canadian. You can get all the recordings. You're going to get that VIP gift and many, many more and many, many more to come. And then as well, you're in that draw for $500 cash to spend with a speaker of your choice. Tamara, thank you so much. What a wonderful session and a wealth of information for all our 40 plus ladies.
Thank you. You guys go live that second half.
Yeah, love it. Thank you.
Thank you.